This conference
Yeah,
will now be recorded.
good evening to one and all. So today we are going to start a new portion in your unit 13. So first of all, let me go through the syllabus. I hope I am audible for you and also the screen is visible. So thank you, Shalini. So in unit 13, yeah, thank you, Rajiv. Thanks. So in unit 13, it's all about methods in biology. So in methods in biology, we have completed section F, microscopic techniques. We have gone through this visualization of cells and subcellular components by light microscopy, resolving power of different microscopy of living cells, then scanning and transmission microscope, a different fixation and staining technique for electron microscope, freeze etch and freeze fracture method for electron microscope, image processing methods in microscopy. So all those things we have completed. Fine. Now you can go for additional materials online and also from the reference books as well. Fine. So today we are going to start one important topic, which is equally important for your regular career. I mean regular uh, your studies as well as for CSIR. That's in the unit 13. You have a section molecular biology and recombinant DNA methods. So I hope most of the microbiology, biotechnology, biochemistry, all students, of course, biotechnology definitely have. You have a portion in recombinant DNA technology and molecular biology as well, because it is very important both theoretically and practically for your future career as well as for future job prospects, everything. Fine. So from this portion, you have a lot of things to study. Just go through the syllabus. Isolation and purification of DNA, RNA. That is, in DNA it comes in genomic and plasmid DNA. Then proteins, different separation methods, analysis of RNA, DNA, and proteins by 1 and 2 dimensional gel electrophoresis, isoelectric focusing gel. Then molecular cloning of DNA or RNA fragment in bacterial and eukaryotic system. Expression of recombinant proteins using bacterial, animal, and plant vectors, isolation of specific nucleic acid sequences, generation of genomic and cDNA libraries in plasmid, phage, cosmid, back and yeast vectors, in vitro mutagenesis, deletion technique, gene knock. A lot of things are there: protein sequencing, DNA sequencing, then isolation of carbohydrates and lipids, RFLP, restriction, fragment length, polymorphism, lot of things are there. Fine, in this syllabus. So today we are going to start with this portion. So now you are clear. It comes in CSIR syllabus, unit 13, that is methods in biology, part A, molecular biology and recombinant DNA methods. Fine, clear. So now let me start the presentation. So today we are going to mainly deal with DNA isolation and purification. So before going to DNA isolation and purification, let me know, what do you mean by, all of you? I just want you to type in the comment box. What do you mean by rDNA technology, or what do you mean by recombinant DNA technology, or simply what is your idea about recombinant DNA technology, or what is a recombinant DNA, or how a recombinant DNA is produced? What are its benefits, methods, protocols? Anybody who knows what is and what do you mean by an rDNA technology can type in the comment box in simple words. What do you mean by the term rDNA technology? To get a desirable product by Navneet Sahit. Yes, thank you. It's a proper answer. To get desirable product means you have to make it specific, um, okay, desirable. Okay, I will make it specific. To get desirable recombinant product. Okay, fine. Any other person, any other participants? How many participants we have today? 13, total 13 including the organizers. Yeah, it's one. Dr. Shabnam, Aishwarya, 1 2, Jancy, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So almost 9 participants. Fine, then including the organizers. Okay, fine, good. So tell me, what do you mean by rDNA technology? Yes, I have more answers. So Navneet, I read from Maunia, joining of DNA to get different product. Yes. Shalini, method which is used to insert foreign DNA in the specific organism using vector and produce a recombinant product. Yes, very good, clear answer, Shalini. Jansi, to join DNA from two different species. Yes. Dr. Shabnam, rDNA means using or combining two or more desirable DNA to create novel genetic combinations. Yes, yes, fine, fine. So most of you have a very clear-cut idea about recombinant DNA technology. Recombinant DNA technology, it is the process by which a desirable gene is transferred from one organism to another, so that the recombinant organism will provide us a value-added product. For example, while I was taking the workshop, I had given a very simple example for recombinant DNA technology, which you know, most of you know. It's very simple. Like, for example, we have a hen at our home which lays 2 eggs daily. Maybe a hen of our neighbor lays 10 eggs daily or 15 eggs daily. So it is too much. So we also want that character to be incorporated into our hen. So what we can do, using recombinant DNA technology, there will be a gene which is responsible for laying more number of eggs or laying eggs in the neighbor, in the hen of neighbor. So we have to restrict that gene using a restriction enzyme. We will be coming into each and every time in future in detail. Now just I am giving you an idea. So there is a gene which is specific for laying 15 eggs in the neighbor's hen. So that gene has to be identified first of all, restricted using a specific restriction enzyme like EcoR1, BAMH1. You know, most of you know some of the terms in biotechnology or recombinant DNA technology. I hope so. Fine. And that restricted gene will be incorporated into a vector like plasmid or whatever vector, and this vector will be transferred first of all in a bacterial cell in order to produce more copies, or finally we will make sure the recombinant vector with the foreign gene is able to express, so that it will be transferred into our hen, so that our hen will become a recombinant hen, and then maybe from a few in future it will also start laying 10 to 15 eggs per day like your neighbor's hen. Is that clear? Is this example clear for all of you regarding recombinant DNA technology? It's a very simple example. Is it clear? What do you mean by recombinant DNA technology? That term? It's very simple. You are going to transfer desirable characters from organisms. Could be which belongs to the same, like similar, or it could be within the bacterial species itself. Maybe from a bacterial to another. It is also possible nowadays. Maybe from one animal to another animal. That is closely related species, distantly related species. All those things are possible. Only we have to make sure the recombinant gene must be expressed in the donor, and you will get the desired product. Clear? So with this definition or with this explanation of recombinant DNA technology, so now I have told you the first step for our hen to lay 10 to 15 eggs per day is to get the desired gene. So in that hen, that desired gene will be located in the DNA of the hen. The DNA will be present in all the cells as well. Fine. So what is the first step? What is the first step for us to get the desired gene? Can anybody tell me? I want the desired gene to be taken out from the hen's DNA. So what will be the first step I must do? Just type in the comment box. Isolation, which means, okay, I have to isolate the total cell DNA of the hen. Then only I can find out where is the gene, right? I don't have the DNA. Gene is nothing but it will be located in a portion of the DNA. You have already studied. You might have already studied about the expression of genes and some what should I say? Operon. Do you know what is an operon? Operon. Have you heard the term operon? Operon. Anybody? Regulation of gene? Yes. Operon. Anybody have heard the term operon? Operon concept and all. Yes, yes, no. Okay. See, operon is nothing but it's nothing but it is related to the expression of gene. For example, if a gene has to be expressed, yeah, there must be lac operon models as well. Okay, okay. There must be the gene will be located near a promoter. You will have a promoter area. You will have an operated area. Then you will have the specific coding sequence which is responsible for the gene. So all those things will combine together to form the operon. And if the operon is properly, I mean, transcribed, you will get the protein. So okay, before that, let me ask you some question. What is the difference between transcription and translation? Because all these things are basic. Actually, I am not supposed to explain it here, but without this explanation, I can't start our DNA technology or biotechnology. So that's why I'm asking some questions in the beginning itself. Because while we were learning microscopy, we started with various characteristic features of microscopes, terms, terminologies. Then we started microscopy. Similarly, before starting biotechnology or RDNA technology, you must know some of the related terminologies as well. Okay, tell me what is transcription, what is translation? DNA to mRNA is transcription, DNA to RNA transcription, and RNA to protein translation. Yes, Millie, Shabnam, Dr. Shabnam, Vidushi, transcription, RNA. Okay, okay, Shalini. Okay, some of you know. So I told you gene expression, gene expression, gene expression. If a gene has to be expressed, what has to be done? First of all, the DNA must be converted into a messenger RNA by the process of transcription, followed by the messenger RNA will undergo the translation process to provide the protein. The protein is nothing but the expression of the gene. It could be an enzyme or a hormone or whatever. Fine, central dogma plays this role. So you know, transcription and translation we have started learning from the basic classes. So hope you all know. So similarly, now why we are going for DNA isolation and purification? That was my question actually. Why we are going for DNA isolation and purification? In order to obtain desired gene from the donor organism, we have to isolate the total cell DNA. Then only after isolation only we may be able to locate where is the desired gene. Clear? So in order, yes, Aishwarya Pathak, welcome for desired gene. Yes. So in order to get the desired gene, we have to isolate the total cell DNA of an organism. Let it be a bacterial, virus, or whatever it is. Fine. So with this introduction, let us start the presentation. DNA isolation and purification, which is nothing but the foremost and the first step in recombinant DNA technology. Clear? So yeah. So about the introduction is already I have done the introduction. So it could be either total cell DNA, sometimes plasmid DNA. Sometimes the gene must be coded in a plasmid. Now comes the next question. What are plasmids? What are plasmids? Anybody? Yeah, vector. I want a proper definition, Aishwarya. Yes, it is a vector. Vector means vector is nothing but you are using plasmid to transfer the foreign gene from one organism to another. Okay, excellent, 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 Shalini and Vidushi. Extra chromosomal material. Why it is called extra chromosomal material? Plasmid is the chromosomal material similar to DNA, which is present in certain organisms, especially bacteria, in addition to the normal chromosome. So it will be having a DNA, and in addition, extra chromosomal means in addition to the DNA, you will have circular DNA, double stranded, single stranded, present in lower living organisms like bacteria. Nothing but the plasmid DNA. So sometimes, so what I want you to know is sometimes we have to isolate the total cell DNA. Sometimes we may have to isolate the plasmid DNA, and sometimes we may have to isolate the phage DNA. Comes the next question. What do you mean by a phage? Phage. Anybody? Phage. What is a phage? Phage. Anybody? Anybody can type the answer. Phage. Yeah, very good, very good. Vidushi, Shalini, and Dr. Shabnam, Milisha. Yes. Note infection caused by virus. The correct one is bacteria, virus which infects the bacteria, bacteriophages. Virus which infects the bacteria, bacteriophages. Fine. So That's it. So we have to isolate either total cell DNA. Sometimes we have to isolate the plasmid DNA. Sometimes we have to isolate the phage DNA. Now, sometimes we are going to isolate DNA from plant cells. Sometimes we are going to isolate DNA from animal cells. Now, any DNA isolation will have more or less a similar protocol. There will be few differences in some steps. That's it. Fine. Now, for example, we are going to start with bacterial culture. Now, total DNA preparation from a bacterial culture is divided into 4 stages. Yeah. Okay. So it could be, this is the point which we have discussed. Either it could be total cell DNA or plasmid DNA or phage DNA. Fine. Now, total DNA preparation from a bacterial culture is divided into 4 stages. There are 4 steps actually. What are the steps? The first step. See, a culture of bacteria is grown and then harvested. So first of all, if we want to isolate DNA, we must have a bacterial culture because we are going to isolate the DNA from the bacterial cell. So first of all, see, bacterial culture is grown. You can see the turbidity in the broth. Now, second step. Yes, the cells are broke open to release their content. We are going to break the cell. So then you have to think about the bacterial cell. The bacterial cell is, enclosed within a cell wall. You have studied about gram-positive bacterial cell, gram-negative bacterial cell wall, peptidoglycan thicker in gram-positive, thinner in gram-negative, phospholipids in gram-negative. All those things must come to your mind that time. Fine. So bacterial cell will be having a cell wall. Inside the cell wall, you will have a plasma membrane. Not you, bacteria. Not we, bacteria. Fine. Inside the plasma membrane, nucleus, then cytoplasm. Cytoplasm plus nucleus, nothing but protoplasm. You will have proteins, you will have RNAs, you will have DNA. So all those things will be there in the cell. So when we are going to break open the cell, what is happening? All those contents will be released. You will have a mixture of DNA, RNA, proteins, then cell wall debris, plasma membrane debris, remains. All those things will be there. That means, see, first of all, bacterial cell culture is centrifugation. You will get the pellet of cells. When the cells will be broke open, you will have everything inside, cell extract. So first step, a culture of bacteria is grown and then harvested. Second step, the cells are removed and broken to give a cell extract. This is the cell extract. So you will have everything inside the cell extract. You will have DNA, RNA, proteins. Fine. Maybe some of the internal materials like, what is that? Like endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi body, some of the remains of cell wall remains. So everything will be there. Sir, which enzyme is used to break the bacterial cell? Where is that? Yeah, Dr. Shabnam. Please excuse me. I am coming into that. I am coming into that point. Yes, lysozyme. It's a correct answer. I am coming to that. This is just an introduction, right? We have just started the topic. I am coming to all those things in detail. Okay, we will see in detail about DNA isolation today. Very detailed. Okay, this is just an introduction. Okay, I am just introducing. Fine, thank you. Yeah. So first step, bacterial cell culture is grown and harvested. Second step, cells are broke open to release their content. Fine. Third step, see, this is the third step. What do you have? You will have the cell extract is treated to remove all components except the DNA. This is most important. Here we are going to isolate the DNA. In that case, we have a cell extract with us with all the impurities. That is impurity, our target is to get the DNA. So whatever is there in the cell extract apart from DNA, we call it as impurities. It could be RNA, proteins, cell debris, everything. So the third step, we are doing some treatment like Dr. Dr. Shabnam, right? Yeah, Dr. Shabnam has asked me, sir, which is the enzyme used to break the cell wall? Yeah, there is an enzyme. There is some enzymes which is used to break the cell wall. There are some enzymes which is used to remove the protein. There are some other enzymes which is used to remove the RNA. We will see one by one, step by step in detail. Even as time permits, I can even show you a interactive video as well. Fine. So in the third step, what we are going to do, the cell extract is treated with something, some chemicals or some enzymes or something, we don't know now, to remove all components except the DNA. Fine. That means after this treatment, in the third step, we will have only DNA. See the third step, pure DNA. Clear? Proteins are gone, RNA is gone, all other cell debris is gone. You will have only DNA. The DNA is purified from the cell extract. DNA is purified. Then, fourth and the final step, the resulting DNA solution is concentrated. Why like that? Why we have to do DNA concentration? Anybody? Anybody in the comment box? So first we cultured the bacteria, then the cells were break and all the cellular contents were released. Then we have treated it with some chemicals, some enzymes and all, removed all other components except the DNA. And in the fourth step, the resulting DNA solution is concentrated. Why we had to do that? Why we had to concentrate the DNA to get the purest form? Yes. But why? What is the reason? Yeah, we are doing to remove water. I cannot agree with that, Jancy. Not to remove the water. Yeah, to remove the water means you mean to concentrate more. Okay, partially. Now you see, listen. Now, first of all, the DNA content in cell varies from organism to organism. Fine, maybe to prevent DNA denaturation. Yeah, could be. No, the basic reason why we have to concentrate the resulting DNA solution is the DNA content will vary from cell to cell. For example, the DNA content of the bacterial cell will be quite different from the phage, quite different from the plant cell, quite different from the animal cell. False interpretation. Yeah, a lot of reasons are there. But the basic reason is when we are going for a recombinant DNA technology experiment or protocol, we must have our desired gene in the purest form in the required concentration. That is most important. Required concentration is most important because once we isolate the DNA, purified it, concentrated it, then only we can pass to the next step. Fine. So what we have to do? We have to concentrate it because we have to get it in the desired proportion. It must be pure, concentrated. Pure means free from all the impurities like RNA, proteins, other cell debris, cell wall debris, everything. It must be pure. It must be concentrated. Clear? Is it clear? Introduction, intro. This is just an intro. We are going to start the picture only. This is just the title card of the movie. Fine? Is that clear? Yes. Just keep this in mind. Keep this in mind, and we are going to the details. Each and every step detail we are going to start now. Clear? Yeah. So this is the first step, that is cell lysis and preparation of cell extract. The first step in the DNA isolation. So what are the various methods by which we can go for cell lysis? Cell lysis means breaking of cell. First step. It could be either physical methods by mechanical forces. So first method is by physical methods using some mechanical forces, and another method is chemical methods by using chemical agents. Okay, so there are two methods. There are two methods for cell lysis or breaking up of whole cell, bacterial cell. Fine. It could be either physical methods using mechanical forces and chemical methods using chemical agents. We are going to discuss in detail about the chemical methods, which is the most common method used for bacterial cells. But can anybody tell me few names of physical methods? That is, I have told you we can go for either physical methods by mechanical sources or chemical methods by chemical agents. Can anybody tell me examples of physical methods? Anyone used to break bacterial cell? Electroporation, yes. Electroporation, yeah, okay, electroporation. Have you heard the term sharp beads? Yes, sharp beads can be used. Homogenization using buffer, mortar and pestle, it can be used. Then, have you heard the term sonication, ultrasonication? Anybody? Sonicator, ultrasonication. Anybody has heard the term? No. Okay. See, all these things are different methods. For example, mortar and pestle, all of you know. Like mortar and pestle, all of you know. We are going to homogenize using mortar and pestle, but it is more or less, we cannot tell. It is an effective method. Sharp beads, yes, you are using some metal beads or something. You are adding the culture and going for some rotations, and yeah, there is. Now, the common method used is ultrasonication. Now, in ultrasonication, what they are doing is you will be having a sharp needle which will be revolving in a very high speed, like this centrifugation. Fine, ultrasonicator, because I have done that. That's why I am telling you. It is an equipment. Ultrasonicator is an equipment. You will be having a sharp needle which will be rotating in a very high speed, like some RPM or like your centrifugation same. And what we do, we will be taking the, whole cell concentration, the broth with the bacterial broth, and we will be keeping it under this thing, and we will be adjusting the RPM, so that due to this high rotation of this sharp needle, your cells will be also centrifuged. It will be having a rotation like something like a centrifugation, but during same time you will be adding some beads into that. Sharp bead means some metal components into that, and due to this rotation and all, the cells will break open and the cellular components will be extracted into the medium. Fine. Just for you to know, this is nothing to do with the thing, but just for you to know, there are few methods by which we can, there are few physical methods by which we can go for cell lysis. Fine. In order to get the total cell extract. They are homogenization using mortar and pestle, yes, sharp beads, ultrasonication, etc. Clear? Just for you to know, for your information. And we are going into detail about the chemical methods, which is most important in our examination point of view, and the most common method. Chemical methods are the most common methods used with bacterial cells, most commonly used with bacterial cell. Clear? Now, so as I have already told you, the bacterial cell will be having a cell wall and also a plasma membrane. Now, when we are going for chemical methods, see, one agent will be attacking the cell wall, whereas another agent will be disrupting the cell membrane or plasma membrane. So this is the method we are using in chemical treatment. So as you know, bacterial cell has a cell wall. Inside the cell wall there is a plasma membrane, and inside the plasma membrane you will have all the DNA, RNA, proteins, and all the cell debris, all the intracellular organelles, protoplasm, cytoplasm plus nucleus, everything. Fine. So in that case, we have to break the cell wall and also the plasma membrane. So chemical methods are focusing in two ways. One agent, we are adding many chemical agents. We will be going one by one in detail. So few agents which we add will attack the cell wall and break the cell wall, so that some other agents will be concentrating on the breakage of plasma membrane. Fine. Now, chemicals that are used depend upon the species of bacterium. Yeah, we are using different agents. For gram-positive, there will be slightly different agents, but commonly all the rDNA experiments, mainly it involves gram-negative organisms like E. coli. You know, E. coli is a well-known bacterial species, gram-negative species, which is very commonly used in recombinant DNA technology experiments. So in such case of gram-negative agents, gram-negative organism, we are mainly using lysozyme, ethylene diamine tetraacetate, that is EDTA, or a combination of both. Fine. Lysozyme is one agent, then EDTA is another agent, or we will use in combination. We will add both. We will use either lysozyme enzyme, or we will use EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetate or tetraacetic acid. We can, or combination. Fine. Now, lysozyme. What is the action of each and every enzyme? So first one is lysozyme. If we are adding lysozyme, what is going to happen? See, Lysozyme is an enzyme present in egg white and in secretions such as tears and saliva. So lysozyme is commonly found in egg white, tears, saliva, etc. Now, what is the action? That is most important. It digests the polymeric compounds that give the cell wall its rigidity. So lysozyme focus on the cell wall of bacterial cell. What it is doing, it digests the polymeric compounds. What do you mean by polymeric compound? Anybody in the comment box? Polymeric compound. What do you mean by polymeric compounds? Or what are the polymeric compounds present, which may be present on bacterial cell wall? Polymeric compound. What do you mean by polymeric compound? Anybody in the comment box? Hope still you are listening and you have not slept. Yeah, made up of many components. Milisha, Priyama Kumari, organic compounds. Yeah, it could be organic. It is of course organic. Yeah, because living cell, right? Then, see, polymeric compound means combination of monomers. What do you mean by monomer? Monomer, dimer, polymer. Yeah, made of different monomer. Yes, Jancy, very good. So polymeric compounds. See, polypeptides. What is the last unit of polypeptide? Amino acid. Is it amino acid? Polypeptide. Polypeptides are could be made up of monopeptides. So when we come to the last component, it could be amino acid. Fine. Yeah. Good. Now you know. So in case of bacterial cell, now you have peptidoglycan. It is a polymer. Phospholipid. It is a polymer. So all those polymeric compounds are digested by the enzyme lysozyme. Okay, these polymeric compounds are providing rigidity to the cell wall. Fine. So that is about lysozyme. And what about EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetate? It removes magnesium ions, essential for preserving the overall structure of the cell envelope, and also inhibits cellular enzymes that could degrade the DNA. So lysozyme will digest the polymeric compounds, which provides cell wall with rigidity. Whereas, what is the purpose of EDTA, ethylene diamine tetraacetate? EDTA removes magnesium ions. It removes magnesium ions. Now, what is the function of magnesium ions? It helps in preserving the overall structure of cell envelope. Okay, then this EDTA, second function, it also inhibits cellular enzymes. Now, that means when we are going for breaking up of cell, or when we are going for lysis of a cell, excuse me, when we are going for lysis of a cell, there is a possibility that the cellular enzymes will degrade the DNA by its own. For example, in our body, you know, the dead cells are removed and new cells are formed in our body. You all agree with that, right? Have you heard the term apoptosis? Apoptosis. Have you heard the term apoptosis? Yes. Very good. What do you mean by apoptosis? What do you mean by apoptosis? Anybody? Excellent. Who is that? Programmed cell that Shalini. Very good. All of you know. Jancy, everyone knows. So this apoptosis is possible when we are going for cell lysis. In order to get our desired gene, in order to isolate our desired gene, we are going for DNA isolation, and the cell will go to apoptosis. Fine. So this apoptosis is one step of this apoptosis is the natural degradation of DNA done by the cellular enzymes, and EDTA will also inhibit this process. So EDTA acts in two ways. It will remove the magnesium ions, which provides the overall structure of the cell envelope, as well as it inhibits the cellular enzymes, which degrades the DNA. Fine. So function of lysozyme, you know now. Function of EDTA, you know now. Additional point. Weakening the cell wall with lysozyme or EDTA is sufficient to cause bacterial cells to burst. But usually a detergent such as sodium dodecyl sulfate, that is SDS, is also added, which aids the process of lysis by removing lipid molecules and thereby causing disruption of cell membrane or plasma membrane. So we told in the beginning, we usually use lysozyme and EDTA. Either we use lysozyme or we use EDTA or we use a combination of both. But here, what is the point? Here the point is either we can use lysozyme or EDTA or a combination, because lysozyme and EDTA mainly acts on the cell wall, but usually we add a detergent, that is a third agent, together with lysozyme or EDTA or both. That third agent is nothing but it is a detergent called sodium dodecyl sulfate, that is SDS. Now, what is the function of SDS? SDS will SDS will initiate, or SDS will accelerate the process of cell lysis by removing the lipid molecules. Fine. Yeah. Anionic detergent. Very good, Shalini. So SDS will remove the lipid molecules. Lipid means fat molecules. Now, as a result, what happens? Disruption of cell membrane or plasma membrane will take place. So, EDTA and lysozyme will focus on cell wall, whereas SDS will focus on cell membrane or plasma membrane. What it will do? It will remove the lipid molecules. As a result, disruption of plasma membrane will be accelerated. Clear? So, in case of cell lysis, in order to proceed with cell lysis and preparation of cell extract, we use lysozyme, EDTA, or a combination of both with SDS, which is nothing but a detergent, sodium dodecyl sulfate. Clear? So that is another thing. Fine. Then last point, after lysis. So now cell lysis is over. You have the cell lysis done. The final step is removal of insoluble cell debris. So when cell lysis happens, what is happening? When cell lysis happens, the insoluble cell debris, like the remains of cell wall, will come. The remains of plasma membrane will be there. All the intracellular organelles will be there. DNA is there. RNA is there. Proteins are there. All those things. It will be a mixture. So now we have to remove all the insoluble cell debris. So the first step is, after lysis, we can remove the insoluble cell debris. Means insoluble cell remains, cell wall remains and all. How we are doing that? There is components such as partially digested cell wall fraction. So example for insoluble cell debris is partially digested cell wall fractions. It could be pelleted by centrifugation. So after cell lysis, we are going the next step, centrifugation. In this step, what we are doing? In centrifugation, we get a pellet. So whenever we are going for centrifugation, we are getting two components. What are they? Anybody? When we perform centrifugation, we get two components. What are they? Have you done centrifugation? Have you used the centrifuge, ultra centrifuge, or normal centrifuge, anything? Yeah, pellet and supernatant. Which will be in the liquid form? Pellet is in the liquid form or supernatant is in the liquid form? Supernatant and residue pellet, yes. Yeah, supernatant. Yeah, liquid form. On the top side, you will have the clear supernatant, whereas pellet will be in the bottom of the Eppendorf tube as a powdered form or as a small round form, pellet form. Clear? So, after cell lysis, in order to remove the insoluble cell debris or insoluble partially digested cell wall fractions, all those insoluble impurities, we can, that is, it is insoluble. That's why we can remove it by centrifugation. Clear the point? In case of all, after cell lysis, all insoluble cell debris can be easily removed by a centrifugation. After centrifugation, you are getting a supernatant and pellet. The pellet is nothing but the insoluble cell debris, which will be removed or thrown away, and we will perform the rest of the experiments using the supernatant. Fine. So after lysis, the final step is removal of insoluble cell debris. Components such as partially digested cell wall fractions can be pelleted by centrifugation, okay, leaving the cell extract as a clear supernatant, which means I will tell you, which means this is what it means all about. What we have discussed till now, this is the pictorial representation. Fine. You have cell lysis disrupting the cell wall. Fine. You have the cell extract here. You can see the cell extract here. That is preparation of a cell extract. First step is cell lysis. So in this cell extract, what all things you will have? You will have DNA, RNA, proteins, insoluble cell debris, everything is there. This cell extract, we are going for centrifugation. See, centrifuge. We are going for a centrifugation. As a result of centrifugation of the cell extract to remove insoluble debris, you will have a pellet here. See, this is the cell debris, that is the pellet. This pellet is nothing but the insoluble portion, nothing but the insoluble cell wall fractions, plasma membrane fraction, or whatever is the cell debris, which is nothing but the pellet. And in the supernatant, what you have remaining? You will have DNA, RNA, and proteins, mainly in the supernatant. So now our next step is to purify the DNA from RNA and proteins. That is the next step. Clear? So before continuing with the next slide, let me know, is it clear up to this point? Cell lysis, how we are going to proceed, how we start the proceedings. We go for cell lysis. And now what is our next step? Our next step is to isolate the DNA or extract the DNA from the cellular extract, which contains RNA and proteins. Clear? Okay, next slide. So now the next step is purification of DNA from cell extract. We are going to purify the DNA. So in addition to DNA, cell extract contains proteins and RNA. Already we have discussed this thing. Now, various methods are used to purify the DNA from this mixture. There are various methods. What are they? One method is to treat the mixture with organic reagents and enzymes. So there we had two methods. For cell lysis, we had two methods: mechanical method or physical method, and chemical method using enzymes. So here also, in order to extract, or in order to isolate, or in order to purify DNA from cell extract containing proteins and RNA, we have got two methods here also. First method is treatment with a mixture of organic reagents and enzymes. So if we are treating it with organic reagents and enzymes, what is going to happen? It degrades the contaminants. Okay, these organic reagents and enzymes will degrade the contaminants. Why only organic reagents and enzymes? The main thing is, when we are going to purify DNA from proteins and RNA, we have to make sure whatever reagent we are using, it must not harm our DNA. Fine, that is the first thing. We have to be specific. The reagent which we add must only act on RNA or DNA. For example, we are adding some enzymes which will act only on RNA, like RNase enzymes. We are adding some enzymes which act only on proteins, such as proteinase enzymes. I will explain one by one in the next slides. So that is the thing. That's why we are going for specific. It must be specific. It must specifically act. It must not act. So if we are adding a common reagent, it will degrade DNA, it will degrade RNA, it will degrade protein. Then we have nothing left to continue our experiment. Clear, Millie? So that's why we are going for specific thing. I will explain one by one. I will explain one by one in the coming slide. Clear? So two methods are there in order to purify DNA. Yeah, thank you. Two methods are there in order to purify DNA from cell mixture or cellular mixture containing DNA, proteins, and RNA, everything. First method is by treating it with organic reagents and enzymes, which degrade the contaminant. So here, what is the contaminant? The contaminant is nothing but the RNA and the proteins. Fine. Leaving a pure solution of DNA. You can see in the picture. You have DNA, you have RNA, you have proteins here in the picture. Fine. This is with DNA with contaminant. Contaminant is nothing but, you have to keep the mind, contaminant is RNA plus protein. So we are adding some specific enzymes, organic reagents, enzymes. What happens? It will degrade our contaminants. That is, one section will degrade protein, Another section will degrade RNA, so it can be removed in the subsequent step, and finally you will get a mixture of pure DNA. Fine. Now there is another method. The second method is to use chromatography, ion exchange chromatography. So that is another method in order to separate the mixture into various components to separate DNA from proteins and RNA in the extract. So ion exchange chromatography. So you know what is chromatography? Fine, all of you. What is chromatography? Next question. What do you mean by chromatography, or what is the principle of chromatography? Anybody? Anybody? Lot of chromatography techniques are there. Paper chromatography, thin layer chromatography, column chromatography. Separation, yes. Capillary action, yes. Yes. See, chromatography is a technique by which we are separating the components of a mixture by means of separation into different phases. Yes, Jancy. So we are separating the components of a mixture on the basis of its affinity towards the certain components. We will be using some solvents. We will be using some components which will absorb the components of the mixture. So yes, affinity. Now what is adsorption? Separation of mixture components based on charge, mass. Yes, Dr. Shabnam. Based on molecular weight, based on molecular configuration, based on electrical charges, based on electrical affinity. And tell me, what is adsorption? It will be adsorbed onto certain. Adsorption on the top layer. Very good, Shalini. There are two terms, absorption and adsorption. Absorption means the component will be absorbed throughout the surface of the absorbent, whereas adsorption takes place only on the surface. Absorption on the top layer. Is it like that, or is it the rewind? Is it like that? Adsorption takes place on the surface, or adsorption takes place completely? I have a doubt there, because adsorption on solid phase surface, adsorption takes place on the surface, whereas completely penetrated means it is absorption. Clear. That's it. So here in chromatography, usually adsorption is what taking place. Fine. So that's it. Chromatography. We will continue chromatography in detail. Fine. So here, so now you have two methods. That's what the final thing is. You have two methods. See here, you can see a mixture of our cell extract. You have DNA, RNA, protein, etc. You are going for ion exchange chromatography. So then you are getting some. Then as a result of ion exchange chromatography, you are getting two phases. First phase consists of pure DNA. Second phase consists of contaminants. So we can see it in the respective slide how we are performing. Adsorption chromatography is taking solid substances which is known as adsorbent. Preeti Kumari. Yes. Good. All of you know. Fine. So next slide. So removing contaminant by organic extraction. Okay. We will complete this more slide. This one more slide we will complete. What about the organization? Shall I continue for more time? I need an answer from the organizers. Huh?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
So till what time I can continue? Argya.
You can 10 minutes after, sir. 10. 7. Okay.
7:15. 7:10, 7:15. Fine. Very good. So we are continuing with the next slide. So now the first thing I have told you. So we have two methods. We have got one method using organic solvents and enzymes. We have got another method using ion exchange chromatography. So first of all, we are going for removing contaminants by organic extraction and enzyme digestion. Fine. Now to start with, so to deproteinize a cell extract. So now you have a cell extract with DNA, RNA, proteins, everything inside. Fine. All the insoluble components we have already removed by a centrifugation. Now, first we are going for deproteinization. Deproteinization means removal of proteins. To deproteinize a cell extract, we are using phenol, either phenol or a 1:1 mixture of phenol and chloroform. So these are the organic reagents we are using for deproteinization. Either we will use only phenol, otherwise we will use phenol and chloroform in a 1:1 ratio. Clear? Now, what these organic solvents will do? These organic solvents precipitate proteins. It will precipitate proteins. It will remove the proteins as a precipitate, but leave the nucleic acids, that is DNA and RNA, in the aqueous solution. So that's what deproteinization using phenol or phenol and chloroform mixture. So deproteinization, that is removal of protein, can be done by addition of either phenol or using a 1:1 mixture of phenol and chloroform. Now, what is the mechanism or what is the principle behind this? Now, these organic solvents, that is phenol and chloroform, will remove proteins in the form of a precipitate, but it will leave the nucleic acids, that is DNA and RNA, in the aqueous solution. You can see here. See, you have a total cell extract with all the components mixing with phenol, and you have some separation. Now, what is that? We will continue the cell extract. So how we will do deproteinization using phenol or phenol chloroform mixture. The cell extract is mixed gently with the solvent. That is, the solvent is nothing but the phenol chloroform mixture in 1:1 ratio, and the layers are then separated by centrifugation. So first of all, we take the cell extract, we will add 1:1 mixture or 1:1 ratio of phenol on chloroform. We will mix it gently by shaking, or very gentle shaking, and then we will go for centrifugation. After centrifugation, what is going to happen? The protein molecules are precipitated and left as white coagulated mass at the interface between the aqueous and organic layer. So your cell extract is an aqueous layer. You are adding organic solvents such as phenol and chloroform into that layer, mixing it, performing centrifugation. After centrifugation, you are having two layers here. On the top side, you have the aqueous layer, that is the layer of cell extract, which contains the DNA and RNA. At the bottom side, you have the organic layer and phenol, and our proteins will be precipitated as a white mass at the middle of the aqueous layer, that is the watery layer, and the organic layer or the phenol chloroform layer. Clear? That's what happening in the deproteinization using phenol chloroform mixture. Okay, so first of all, the cell extract is taken, mixed gently with the solvent, that is phenol chloroform mixture, and then performed centrifugation. As a result of centrifugation, you have got two layers. On the top side, you will have an aqueous layer with DNA and RNA, and the bottom side you will have the phenol layer or the organic layer. Your proteins will appear, or your protein molecules will be precipitated and appeared as a white coagulated mass between the aqueous layer and the organic layer. Fine. Now, the aqueous solution of nucleic acids can be removed with a pipette. So the next step, we need the DNA actually. Fine. Now we have removed only the proteins. So after removing the proteins, now what is left in the test tube? You have the aqueous layer with DNA and RNA, which has to be removed into a new, not test tube, the Eppendorf tube, which has to be removed in a new Eppendorf tube, carefully using the micropipette. Clear? That's what we are performing in deproteinization step. So is it clear? Deproteinization step, how we are proceeding, what is the resulting things? Everyone, is it clear? Good. So deproteinization is over. Yes, good. Thank you. Deprotein. So now we have an aqueous layer with DNA and RNA. Clear? okay, we will complete with this slide. One more slide. Okay, with this slide we will complete today's topic. Fine. So now we are continuing now with some cell extract. So this is the common method we are using for deproteinization. Clear? Now with some extract, some cell. So as I have already told you, when we are doing this DNA isolation and all, the DNA content will not be similar in different organs. For example, in E. coli it will be more, in Pseudomonas it will be less, in Staphylococcus it will be like, so it depends. So with some of the cell extract, the protein content is very high. Okay, so that a single phenol extraction is not sufficient to completely purify the nucleic acid. So we are going for phenol extraction or phenol chloroform extraction. With one extraction, we may not be able to remove completely the proteins, because in some cells the protein content will be very high. In that case, what is going to happen? Then we have to do several phenol extraction. So we have to do phenol extraction. Number one, we are getting the aqueous layer with DNA, RNA and little protein. Again, we are going for adding 1:1% of phenol chloroform mixture. Again, mixing well, going for centrifugation. Again, removing the aqueous layer. Like that, we have to continue phenol extraction for more than one time. But if we are doing that, there is an issue. What is the issue? Because each mixing and centrifugation step may result in a certain amount of breakage of the DNA. So that is the issue. So in the beginning, I think Millie asked me a question, why we are using organic reagents. See, even though we are using organic reagents, we are having issues in DNA isolation, because practically speaking, DNA isolation and rDNA methods, all those things are very difficult to perform. Fine, because they are very we have to perform it in a very sophisticated way. We cannot do it as a simple experimental protocol. Okay, so here in certain bacterial cell the protein content will be more. So with a single phenol chloroform extraction we may not be able to purify it. In that case, if we perform more than one phenol chloroform extraction step by step, there is a possibility that the DNA molecules will be broken. So what we can do in that case? So it is possible to treat the cell extract with a protease. Before going for phenol extraction, what we can do, if we find that the protein content is more, we can add a protease enzyme. For example, pronase or proteinase K. Pronase or proteinase K are examples of protease enzymes which can be added before phenol extraction. So if we are adding, what is going to happen? These enzymes will break polypeptides down into smaller units. So polypeptides will be broken down into monopeptides or peptides, which are more easily removed by phenol extraction. Clear? In case if the cell is having more protein content, before going for phenol extraction, we have to treat the cell extract with a protease enzyme. Protease enzyme is nothing but a class of enzymes which will specifically act on polypeptide chains, will break the bonds and convert it into monopeptides or dipeptides. It will be converted into, that is, polymers will be converted into monomers by this protease class of enzymes. Example for such enzymes are pronase or proteinase K. This has to be added before phenol extraction, and once the enzymes will break the polypeptides into its smaller units, you can go for phenol extraction so that the proteins will be completely removed. Clear? So that is one thing. Now, some RNA molecules. So now after the removal of proteins, you are having RNA molecules in the mixture. Now, some RNA molecules, for example, mRNA molecule or messenger RNA molecules, are also removed by phenol treatment. But most of the other RNA, other than mRNA, you will have tRNA, normal, different types of RNAs are there. Fine. So, but most of the RNA will remain with the DNA in the aqueous layer. So, even after phenolic extraction, proteins will be removed by phenol chloroform mixture or phenol extraction, but RNA will be present together with the DNA in the aqueous layer. So, The only effective way to remove RNA is with the enzyme ribonuclease. So, like proteinase K, we can also go for another class of enzymes called ribonuclease, which rapidly degrade the RNA molecules into ribonucleotide subunits, which can be further removed by subsequent centrifugation and all other steps. Clear? So, in order to remove proteins, if in cells with higher protein content, we can go for class of enzymes called protease. Examples are pronase or proteinase K, which will break the polypeptides into peptides, which will convert polymers into monomers, and they can be removed by further phenol treatment and centrifugation. Now, phenol treatment may also remove some mRNA molecule, but the majority of the RNA will remain within the aqueous layer together with our target DNA. This RNA can be removed by adding another enzyme, that is ribonuclease enzyme, which will specifically act on the ribonucleotide units, and such polymers will also be converted into monomers, which could be removed by further centrifugation and subsequent steps. Clear? So this is about the first method, that is, you have two methods, as I have already told you. Two methods are there. First method is to treat with organic reagents and enzymes. Now we have to go with the second method, that is ion exchange column chromatography, to purify DNA from cell extract, which we can continue in the next class. Clear? Now the class is open for discussion, and over to organizers.
Okay, sir. Students, if you have any doubts regarding today's session, please comment your doubts in the comment section.
Yes, you have anything to ask more till the point? Yeah, thank you, Millie. Till the point which we have discussed, you can ask now, or if you have any doubts in future when you read these topics in any text or referring, please, I am reachable in this email ID and WhatsApp number. Fine, as you all know, and we will be continuing the same topic in the next class. Fine. Yeah, thank you, Jansi, Vidushi, everyone. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Dr.
So, if you have understood today's topic, you can just comment yes in the comment section. Just let us know. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for attending. I hope you all enjoyed today. That's all for today. And I request everyone to register soon, because we are soon we are going to begin our structure class, because all the PPTs which are discussed in the class we cannot provide you in the demo class. For that you have to make your registration process, and please do it registration process soon, and there only we will provide the book list and all the PPTs, so that you can prepare notes regarding CSRNet. And first 30 comers will get concession of 500 rupees, and you can pay in the installment also. So no need to worry about it. We will help you to crack CSR, and all the faculties have almost cracked CSRNet. So we are really confident about it. So you have to do just make your registration soon. Already few students has registered. So I want you all people to register soon and crack the CSRNet with the Biosector Life Science. So that's all for today. Thank you, Vinay sir. It was really informative. And Argadeep, you can put the feedback link in the comment section.